Hi, beloveds. I thought we'd start off with a little mantra today, right? And a mantra has power. It doesn't matter what language it's in. Sounds, language have power, don't they? All right, so you ready for your mantra today? The mantra is, darkness, your days are numbered. Darkness, your days are numbered. Darkness, your days are numbered, right? That's just a little mantra for you to keep in mind as you go out and about during your day, or if you're at home tonight, whatever you're doing. Have that approach sometimes and see where it takes you. So I wanted to start off with that little tip today for you. But what we're really going to look at today is the $10 million question of complex PTSD. How does this get healed for good? Wow, let's look at this, all right? So in the 4 stages of complex PTSD that I lay out in another video, we have awareness, and then we move to the stage of education, and that's very important to become educated about your family of origin, to understand why and how these vibrations were installed in me, these vibrations of fear and depression and anxiety. Why were they installed in me, right? As a youngster, when I was just this pure little being wanting love, why did they get installed in me, right? So the education component and the reading and perhaps seeing a therapist or therapists, podcasts, getting educated as much as you can about complex PTSD. That's so important. However, there's more. And this is where the $10 million question comes into play. How does this get settled for good? Well, let's look at this. If you only apply the mind to the mind, it's like a tennis match, isn't it? Forever going back and forth. He said this, she did this, I feel bad here, that was my fault here, and it will go back and forth in this never-ending tennis match that indeed becomes more exhausting as the match goes on until it ultimately wears you out, doesn't it? Maybe you're there. Yay if you are. That's another video, we'll get there. But ultimately, guess where your questions settle? Guess where the knots are untied for good? They are untied for good in your greater nature. And this goes by many, many terms across the world. Now, these are just terms, right? But beyond the terms, they're a deeply personal experience. So let's look at some of those terms. Greater nature, higher self, presence, spirit, nature, consciousness, the Buddha's middle path, the kingdom of heaven. It goes on and on. The Tao goes on and on and on. These terms that describe our depth. Unconditional love's another term, by the way. Your greater nature. That's where these questions, these knots are untied. That's at last where we can breathe, when we touch our greater nature. And that's why on this channel, you'll notice that I have many videos that center around meditation. Think of meditation as the removal of ignorance, the removal of confusion. Oh my gosh, that feels so good. For 10 minutes, I remove the confusion from my mind, and I return to homeostasis for 10 minutes, as an example. Right? I return to balance, the truth of who I am, for 10 minutes. Even if you have a half-second glimpse, I guarantee it will have a magnetic quality that will draw you back to it time and time again. So the half second becomes a second, becomes 5 seconds, becomes 10 seconds. So whatever we do in life that welcomes, enhances our greater nature, I encourage us to do this, whether it be dancing, surfing, photography, prayer, hula, going for hikes, looking in a pet's eyes, right? Spending time with a child. All these activities have the opportunity to enhance our greater nature. And when we soak in this greater nature, our insecurities, our confusion, deep confusion, right, will at last start to rest. Now I'm going to make an analogy here. So let's say there's a very, very compact clump of dirt, and it's very strong, very compact clump of dirt. Well, if you just left it out in the hot sun to bake, it would stay as that compact clump of dirt, wouldn't it? But what happens when you put that clump of dirt in a glass of pure water? That clump of dirt will start to break down into smaller clumps of dirt, and those small clumps of dirt will eventually become sediment, and they'll settle at the bottom of the glass. So imagine our fears, our insecurities, the complex PTSD, you put it all together and it's a strong clump of dirt, right? And the fears, the insecurities, they all banded up like the mafia, and they made a big, strong clump of dirt. Well, when we take a moment to soak, to settle, to come to our greater nature, to really enjoy the aha moments of life, it starts to break up the mafia. It starts to break up those clumps of dirt. Just like the water, the dirt clod in the water. Consciousness does that for our misunderstandings of who we thought we were. In other words, vibrations were installed in us when we were very, very young. These are just misunderstandings. They are not the real you. But that essence, that presence that you know is in there, that you have always known that was in there. In fact, when you were a little baby, you just arrived saying, love me, love me, love me, love me, didn't you? But for whatever reason, the people around you didn't have the capacity to do that. That's theirs to own. But what you are doing through this process of complex PTSD, just think of it as a process, a journey. Through this journey, you are reclaiming that greater nature. So it's like this has pushed you. All these circumstances in your life, it pushed you, really pushed you. Sometimes created fire underneath you. Sometimes you didn't think you're going to make it. It's made it a very compact clump of dirt. And then the understanding comes, the education comes, which is a great, great thing to have. You're not going to be in ignorance anymore. And then ultimately you will begin to settle when you understand and soak in the truth of your greater nature through prayer, through meditation, through spending time with people where you do feel safe. And in our community here on this channel, it's very important to me to create a community where we feel safe and when we feel at ease. Because when we feel at ease, we settle into our normal state, our natural state. Our natural state is simply our greater nature. And that's where this confusion comes down like sediment. Now, yeah, it'll get stirred up like the glass of water with the mud. It'll get stirred up and it'll get foggy again. But ultimately, you know that it's settling down into your greater nature, into your natural state. And you begin to develop this kind of not only faith, but experience. The experience that you have when you touch your natural state for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, a minute. You'll want to go there time and time again and soak in that place. And this is your meta energy. In other words, this is your greater energy that includes all the other energies underneath it. The heavier energies, the sediment. It's the greatest energy. You are a being of unconditional love at your purest form, and that's a meta energy, a very high energy that includes all the other layers and levels. So nice to settle with you. We can do this together, and we are doing this together. If you want to do private sessions with me, please do be in touch. I do sessions with people from throughout the world, and we definitely not only consider the mind, but we consider the experience of consciousness. We consider your insights and your greater nature, and we let this confusion settle, and we do it together. It feels so good to be with you. Darkness, your days are numbered, all right? And we'll just keep soaking right here on this channel.